finally remembered anyway. Okay, all right, I beg your pardon that. Kim DeLeo.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I'm the first one on camera tonight. That's not fair. Kim DeLeo. I've lived in the neighborhood for 8 years. I'm from New Orleans and Albuquerque, moved to Oregon in 2015 and have resided in Brentwood, Darlington the entire time. She, her pronouns. I enjoy gardening. Anything related to that, would be interested in volunteering that way. Any kind of neighborhood cleanup projects, really any events that we're hosting. I just need to be told about it. I just need to be told when and where to show up, what time. Because I know that last year there were a couple of events I was planning on volunteering for, and then they happened, and it's like, probably my fault for not staying on top of that. But if you ever need anything, just call or text and I'll be there.
Oh, thank you very much, Kim. Yeah, we're going to try to pull it all together and notify people ahead of time what's happening, and then what things need to be done, and when, and so on. So thank you very much for your statement here. Okay, who else? Laura Lee, let's hear from you.
Hi, I'm Laura Lee Cole, and I have been in Portland for, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been 26 years now. And I have lived in Brentwood, Darlington for 10. I've also lived in Creston, Kenilworth, Woodstock, and Richmond. I agree with Kim. Last year and the year before that, I remember hearing about events that happened at our board meetings, but I had no idea that they were coming up and happening. So I'm going to second that with keeping me informed, because we're all busy, but if we know about it ahead of time, we can kind of, put in our schedule to try to help out. My interests are, I'm going to love hearing from Mo about being safe in our neighborhoods. I've been struggling with that. And, sometimes as neighbors, we come head to head and we don't always make the right decisions, but knowing in advance how to deal with certain situations as our neighborhood has changed is going to be a wonderful thing. So my biggest interest right now is our community safety.
Okay,
I'm also secretary on the board, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Okay, very good. All right, good. All right. And hold on a second. That reminds me that Derek is not here. He's probably driving a bus. That quickly before I give my little spiel, an event is coming up on April 1st. E-cycling and more, plant swap, seed swap, education about recycling, and then a chance to learn how to repair your bike, maintain your bike. It's a chance to turn in any old bikes that are festering in the back of your garage these 10 years. April 1st, we welcome volunteers, and I'll be in touch with all of you to remind you soon and say what you can do. We have one volunteer already who's a youngster with Lane Middle School, and I'm going to give her a clipboard, and she's going to ask arrivees where they heard about the event and which neighborhood they're in. And so she's going to be sponsored and earning money for a trip that will take place in 2 years through a program sponsored by Lane Middle School. It's called AVID. So we have one volunteer on board, and I'll be there. And then all the rest of you, I know we need at least 4. I know. Thank you, Tina. Anyway, so I'm giving you a heads up. Right now, it's a Saturday, April 1st. So if you could come, Kim, that would be fabulous. And it's going to be from about startup starts about 8:45, and by the time we move the last table out of the way or whatever, probably be 1:15, 1:30, something like that.
Did you say April 1st?
Yes, and yes, on April Fool's Day, yes.
So I just bought tickets to take my daughter to Hairspray at that day, but we don't need to leave till probably 12. So did you say there was some morning time?
Yes, that would be great. That would be perfect. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Like the one time, and I almost cracked a joke, like I'll be there, call or text, unless there's a concert going on.
Tina.
Guess we're theater.
So The first arrival for setup is at 9 o'clock. That is our Green Century folks will arrive at 1. Everybody else is estimated about, show up at 9. The rest are estimated about 9, 10. So honestly, Stephanie, if you and I get there like 5 minutes to 9, we'll be there in plenty of time.
Oh, okay,
And-
fine.
And the signs say we go until 12:30, so that we would be done with cleanup and handing you or Pam the money, and all the cleanup's done by 1.
Okay, swell, thank
There's a
you. All right.
total of the 4 hours total, if you're there the whole time.
Okay. All right, thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
And Tina has put in probably 20 hours at least, more than that, maybe 30 hours. Creating new signs for our sandwich, our ancient sandwich boards, and they're gonna look really, really spiffy. And thank you, Tina, for that huge amount of work. Really appreciate. Tina, why don't you give a little spiel about yourself? You used to be on the board. You are now like a board advisor.
So I've been a resident of Brentwood, Darlington, mostly on, a little bit off since 1999. Started using the community center from the get-go, from as soon as it was built. So did some meetings before that out people's homes. I remember that. And at the park. And then I didn't even know about the BDNA until, I don't know, 4 years ago, at which point my very first meeting, it would happen to have been election day. And so I stepped up and said, sure, I'll join the board. I have no flipping clue what it's about. And was a board member for a couple of years, and then COVID hit. And I'm like, the things I'm passionate about on being part of the board is cleanups and e-cycling, preservation, gardening, that kind of thing. But I don't have the energy to get bogged down with like the parks things per se. I'm 3 houses inside the border of Brentwood, Darlington, off of 82nd. Okay, so I'm the closest park is Woodmere Elementary, which isn't a park.
Okay,
So, yeah.
you have to wrap it up.
So I volunteer, I help out. I proposed the spring green event, which is
Yes.
the e-recycling event with plant and seed swaps with the library from the gardens. Master recyclers are in theory coming. Their communication stinks. And then I also proposed with Gail that we do the crafting circle that meets on like 2 to 3 times a month. And I know we've gotten some donations from that. I handed the last batch of donations to Stephanie the other day. It probably isn't much, but it's a free event. So we're just doing it by donation. And we've only had 2 rounds. In the first round, there were 6 of us, and the second round was 10 of us, and that's counting Gail and I. So it's starting small.
Well, and it will gain momentum, especially with the good weather. So thank you so much for everything you're doing, Tina and Gail. It's wonderful. You're helping to bring life back to the community center, and we really need that. Let's see, we have a visitor, Aiden Mollering. I've probably butchered your name. Would you like to say a few words about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I am a junior at Franklin High School, and I live next to Brentwood Park. I lived here all my life, and I am here to complete a project for Boy Scouts of America. So I just have to attend a neighborhood meeting, and so yeah.
Well, you're very welcome. And we're very pleased that you chose us to as a meeting to attend. Thank you. And how do you pronounce your first name?
Aiden
Aiden, all right. I didn't get that right. And your last name?
Mollering.
Aiden Mollering. All right. Thank you very much, Aiden.
Thank you.
We're glad that you're here. Okay, and Gina, we will introduce you when it's time for you to make your presentation, if that's okay with you. Thank you very much. And Carrie Carlson, the same thing. I'll just say briefly about myself. I'm the chair, Stephanie Frederick. I've been chair for a few months, But before that, I was land use chair, so I've been with BDNA a bit. My interest in BDNA is that I'm hoping that we can make neighborhood associations strong and relevant and powerful again. And I guess powerful and strong are the same, but relevant again and doing meaningful work for the neighborhoods. And it looks as though there's kind of a turnaround in attitude in the city government, and we'll be able to report on that in the months and weeks to come. So things are actually maybe looking up again finally for the neighborhood associations. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Yeah. Okay, so all right, so this is all of us now. Derek Covey is often with us, but I think he's driving a bus tonight. He works part-time for TriMet. And then Casey Carlton has not appeared. I'll try, I don't have my phone, or I would text him, but it's all right. We'll get on with the meeting now. All
Oh,
right, so
hey, Stephanie, has Lisa introduced herself?
No,
Lisa, oh, I'm very sorry, Lisa, and I'm looking
Okay.
right at you. You're right in the middle of the
Okay.
screen. I beg your pardon. Thank you, Pam.
I'm Lisa Jameson, and I moved to Brentwood, Darlington from Woodstock in November. I was there for about 4 years, and before that, 40 years in Alaska. And I'm a retired clinical social worker, and I am assistant team lead for the neighborhood emergency team in Brentwood, Darlington, which has been very inactive, but Lance Means and I are working on getting it happening. We have a meeting scheduled for the 16th. I'm really hoping that we can get somebody to be a presence at the recycling event, but unfortunately, both Lance and I are going to be out of town that day. So we'll see if anybody can do that. I'm hoping that we can become active. I'm hoping for the long term that we can really do some outreach into the neighborhood for emergency preparedness, and that we can connect with the community center and really be a presence. So that's my hope and plan.
Thank you so much, Lisa. We really value that you have this huge connection with NET, or that you are part of it, and can reconnect us with NET. Thank you very much. And
I'm hoping that we can do a little bit of a presentation later in the year, in the summer, maybe talk more about some new developments with the neighborhood emergency team.
right, I've got you down for June now, but we can talk a little bit later about if it's June, July, whatever works for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's get on with the agenda. It doesn't look like we have any representatives from our local institutions. The Master Gardeners representative told me that she would not be able to come, and Black Futures Farm people are very busy right now. So we will not be hearing from our local organizations. So why don't we go straight to our forum, Exploring Brentwood Darlington. I have the pleasure of introducing Carrie Carlson, who is a ceramicist, who is has a studio in our midst, and has really very beautiful bowls that she makes and other things. I own one and I use it in my weaving. Surprisingly, it's a perfect holder for yarn balls that I pull on to create my wefts. So Carrie, I am going to try to make you a co-host. So I have to find you on here. All right, I'm making you a co-host now. And I will, okay, so we have somebody coming into the waiting room. Her name is Kimberly Holt. All right. Kimberly Holt, welcome. We are just about to go into our a presentation by a local artist. So after that's done, perhaps we could have you introduce yourself then. All right, so I think I need to, I don't know what I need to do next. Do I need to stop sharing at my end? I don't think I am. I'm not sharing.
Let's see. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, if I go to share my screen, I made a little presentation. And I just want to see if you guys can see. Can you see my Zoom slide?
Yes.
Or
we
my
can.
my
Very
slide.
nice. All right, very fine.
We are on top of it. Okay. Can you see Carrie Carlson Ceramics?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go for it because I know I just have a few minutes and I'm gonna talk really fast. So my name is
We're-
Carrie Carlson. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, go ahead.
We're a little bit ahead of schedule, so you can relax a bit. So go ahead.
Okay, I'll talk a little slower. Perfect. Okay, so my name is Carrie Carlson. I am a local potter here in the Brentwood Darlington neighborhood. Thank you so much for the invitation to present tonight. I'm really excited to be here and tell you a little bit about where I came from, what I'm doing now, and what I've got some hopes for the future I want to share too. So I grew up not too far from here in Lake Oswego into a family of small business owners. My mom and dad own and run a small boat mechanic business called Lanny's Marine. And my older sister, Sarah, oh, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, we're going good. Okay, my older sister, Sarah, she owns and runs a small shop called Sarah J. Handmade over in Multnomah Village. If you're looking for anything that is awesome, she carries it. It's crystals, clothing, jewelry, everything. Supports a lot of local artists too. You should check out her shop too. But enough about their small businesses. I learned about ceramics in junior high back in 1995, and I just fell in love with it the moment that I started working with clay. In high school, I received the Most Promise Award for ceramics, which is one of the highest awards you can get for our particular school my senior year. I'm thinking it was probably because I hibernated in the art room basically my entire high school career. When I switched to PCC, I continued to study ceramics there. I tried a lot of different subjects for my major while I was doing my 11-year college path. I was working my way through pain as I went, but I finally landed on public health. I really felt like I found my people, and when I switched to PSU to finish up there, and while I was doing my senior capstone, it was in sustainable agriculture, and it was actually held at the Learning Gardens Lab over here on 60th and Duke.
Oh, really?
That's a picture of me with some giant vegetables. It was the best experience, and it was my introduction to this neighborhood. And little did I know that I'd be buying a home here with my husband just a couple years later. So my ceramic career was kind of paused after switching from PCC to PSU because PSU didn't offer ceramics and I didn't have the needed equipment or space to create work myself. So when my boyfriend at the time, now my husband, when we reached our first year anniversary, I think that he kind of got the hint that I was missing ceramics from complaining too much about it. He bought me a wheel that he had found online, like out in somewhere really far away, like Aurora or something. And how we got this 300-pound kick wheel up 2 flights of stairs, down a hallway, into our tiny apartment that we were living in inner Southeast, that's a totally different story. But once we got it in and I was cleaning it up, on the right-hand side, there was like a piece of tape flapping there, and I pulled off the piece of tape, and underneath, right here, this is what that arrow is pointing to, is a Lake Oswego School District barcode. And it was just one of those like totally serendipitous moments where I was like, how did this wheel find me? And who knows if it was actually the wheel that I learned to throw my first part on. But I took it as a sign, and this is in our apartment. Wait, a long time ago, but I took it as a sign, and I've been making ceramic stuff ever since. When we moved to our home in Brentwood, Darlington, we were able to realize a lifelong dream and built a ceramic studio in our basement. Sorry, I have notes here, making sure I'm not missing anything. we bought a second wheel then, and then my husband, who is a high school art teacher, had a friend, another teacher friend who was selling his kiln. So we got a kiln, then our studio was finally complete, and we no longer had to drive everything to North Portland to Georgie's to fire it. So we were really excited about that. And then within the next couple years, my husband and I were able to complete a second dream of ours, which was turning our detached garage into a gallery space where we could show our work and hold art shows for other artists in the community. Our first show was in 2019 when we participated in Portland Open Studios. Fast forward a few years, and now we have twin boys who are 2.5, and I'm applying for my 3rd year participating in Portland Open Studios. That's Matt. That's my husband right there. I'm not going to lie. The last 3 years have been kind of crazy. As a new full-time mom with twins during COVID was no joke. But I feel so grateful to have had a creative space in our home and a hobby that's turned into a small business that has allowed me to learn and grow and bring a small amount of income into our family, and also to connect with our community. I'm also really grateful for the love and encouragement of my husband to get me motivated to make stuff again, and my friends and family who have really allowed me to keep this thing going. So these days I primarily create my work during nap time. Oops, I skipped one, sorry. Back one, there we go. During nap times and on some evenings and weekends. Most of my sales come during my shows, followed by some commission work that I'm doing for a few nonprofits, and then through my online sales. I'm proud to say that I am a self-created small business, from getting my small business license and registration to setting up my business account at a local bank, which is not as easy as you would think. I've been doing this one tiny baby step at a time. I've been able to do all of it with very little upfront cost. I created my own Google site and connected it to a Squarespace site, which are both free services. They hold all my inventory and allows customers to view and purchase my work online. And then I primarily use Instagram, Facebook, and MailChimp for my emails that I send out for promotion. These are all free marketing tools as well. My biggest expense are materials. Some people have an obsession with new shoes and clothes. I definitely have a problem with pottery tools and glazes. These are the links to my different media sites. I'm going to post them in the chat box after we're done. But I'm going to click on my website right now just to show you guys where you can sign up for my emails if you'd like, and to show you a couple things that I have in stock. So when you click on my website, you can just scroll down. This is where you can subscribe to my emails. And then if you click here for Shop Now, this has some of my current work. And as you all know now, all my pieces are made in my studio in small batches. The process of transforming raw clay into finished pieces you see here takes multiple stages of treatments and firings ranging in their time and complexity to complete. The average piece takes 3 weeks to complete from start to finish. I'm primarily what they call a functional potter, meaning I could like to create things that you can use in your day-to-day life. Mugs are definitely my favorite due to my deep love for coffee, but I also make bowls, wine glasses, serving platters, large bowls, spoon rests, heart dishes, and flower vases. I'm also willing to try just about anything. So if you have any idea for something you'd like to make, let me know. I'm happy to work with you to make your ceramic dreams come true. Looking forward, I've been receiving interest for private classes. So hold on, let me switch back to my slides. There we go. No, not Instagram. Oops. Here we go. Last slide. Okay. Looking forward, I've been receiving interest for the private ceramic classes. I'm going to be testing out offering different workshops and small group classes within the next few months. And my husband and I are really excited about potentially offering ceramic camps for kids in the summer in our backyard, or adults, whoever is interested. So if you're interested in learning more about ceramics or have any questions for me or how to set up a small online store, or if you're interested in maybe taking a class, let me know. This is my email address up at the top here. I'll also put that in the chat. I love our community. I'm so grateful to have been invited to share my story with you guys. And thanks so much for listening. And thanks for all the great work you do in our neighborhood.
Oh, thank you so much, Carrie. Yeah, Pam and I met Carrie at a open studio tour, and we were just blown away by the beauty of her ceramics. Does anyone here have some questions they would like to pose to Carrie?
It looks like Gail asked a couple of questions that I think she already answered about custom orders and dragonflies. Can you add dragonflies in your custom orders?
I'm sure I can. I would love to.
Okay, and the idea of having ceramics classes for kids in your backyard, summertime classes, that is an amazing idea. So everybody, spread the word and mention it to people with kids. It just seems like a really unusual and wonderful thing to take advantage of.
My kid's 22, but I'm going to send him over there.
Still a kid.
Okay.
Totally welcome. Yeah, and when you guys were doing introductions, just to a little bit additional history about me, I worked with Oregon Food Bank for 5 years before becoming a full-time mom, and was a part of working with the intake system at Lane's Food Pantry. I've got a deep love for all the issues, and I also took the Master Gardener program, volunteered with Portland Fruit Tree Project in the neighborhood. Yeah, just a lot of energy that's where I get my energy, is working with people, for people, and really excited to be connected with all you great people who are in our community.
We're excited to be connected with you and grateful that you're here in our community. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. That was visually, it was very interesting, the content, and the visuals that were fabulous. That it feel my heart is very warmed by everything I've seen, and I can guarantee from my experience with my little bowl that I bought from you that these things are very high quality and gorgeous. So anyway, thank you again, Carrie, and we'll be advertising you to our mailing list and our website and our Facebook, so you'll get some exposure, some publicity beyond this meeting. Thank you again. All right, if we do not have any more questions for Gina, we will proceed to our next item on the agenda, which is a presentation by Gina Gastaldi. She is the project manager of an unusual program that is going to take place in our neighborhood, or be carried out by PBOT. Partly in Brentwood Darlington and extending into Lens. So Gina, welcome. Would you like to go ahead?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Thanks for having me. My name is Gina Gastaldi. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the pedestrian coordinator at the Portland Bureau of Transportation, also an Alaskan. So shout out to my fellow Alaskan. I did my 20 years and had to get out of the cold. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. I have some slides to go through, and then we can do questions and answers at the end, if that's okay with everybody.
Sure.
And I'll share my contact information at the end too, so you can all follow up with additional questions or clarifications. Okay, so we're here today. Again, Gina Gastaldi. I'm with PBOT, Portland Bureau of Transportation, and I'm here to talk about a project that I'm managing called Trees in the Curb Zone, and I'll go into what I mean by that. So this project started with a grant award from the Bureau of Environmental Services. PBOT and myself were awarded $500,000 from the Percent for Green program, which is a program that collects system development charges, so kind of charges from developers, and uses that money to fund large-scale green infrastructure projects that have benefits for both watershed health and community health. So this project is being funded. The project I'm about to describe is being funded by BES with a $50,000 match from PBOT. So the goal of the project and what we're doing is to develop a framework for tree planting in the curb zone, working with our Parks and Recreation's urban forestry team and the Bureau of Environmental Services and others, with the end goal of constructing tree space in the curb or parking zone. I'll be referring to it as the curb zone. Really, what I'm really talking about is parking spaces, reallocating on-street parking for a different use than what we might typically see. So why do we want to plant trees in the street, in the curb zone? We know street trees have a lot of benefits. I heard a lot of folks talking about climate resiliency and kind of climate justice. And that's really what we're talking about with this project, providing more space for street trees, trees that provide stormwater management, that can mitigate the urban heat island effect, can mitigate urban air pollution, trees that can be used as traffic calming devices, trees that are providing shade on the street to extend a street's livability by slowing down the pavement deterioration. And really for this project, and kind of the impetus for this is that often we just don't have enough space behind the curb. So sometimes the only option might be going out into the street. So this example in the photo on my slide is from outer Fremont over by Lewitt View Park, a little bit east of 122nd. And what you can see here with these students walking on a sidewalk, this is what we call a curb tight sidewalk. The curb is right up against the sidewalk. There's no place to plant a street tree, even if you wanted to. And then if PBOT was going to come in and do a big capital project or something on this street, and we did want to provide space for street trees, we would be looking at going back into the property, and it's just really, really expensive to buy property. Not, super popular. So in an example like this, if we did want to provide trees, the only option might be to go out into the street. Again, some of the why about planting trees in the curb zone. So PED-PDX is our citywide pedestrian master plan. Action 8.6 of that plan gives us some of the policy guidance for implementing a treatment like this. It talks about providing trees within the curb zone intermittent with on-street parking. So not taking away all of the parking, but really using it strategically. And then that guide was adopted in 2019. And then the pedestrian design guide was just adopted last year. And we took the idea from PED-PDX a step further and really started to talk about kind of the criteria and how you would do it, when you might do it. Excuse me. And the pedestrian design guide was adopted as an administrative rule last year. So it does have some kind of policy teeth and gave us a place to start thinking about how we might implement or build something like this. So there are a couple of examples in Portland. On Southeast Hawthorne at 46th, there was this one-off kind of installation. It was a collaboration between PBOT and BES about 10 years ago or so. This was never intended to be replicated. It wasn't designed to be replicated. It was really kind of a one-off experiment that was spearheaded by a couple of staff. But it's a great case study. The trees are there. They've been there for about a decade. And then Directors Park on the bottom image. This is in downtown Portland, not too far from city offices. And again, this one was really designed not to be replicated at all. It was part of this huge full block, full streetscape redevelopment as part of the Directors Park project. But again, it does give us something to point to when we're thinking about, okay, what does a bigger project look like than just, a couple of trees. I did a peer city review, just reaching out to other cities, seeing what other cities have done and how they're thinking about this. There are some other examples of cities who've reallocated or are doing new thinking around what that parking zone can be. The bottom left image with the kind of scored concrete pattern is actually in Wilsonville, Oregon. So we've got some neighbors doing some cool work in that space. And then the bottom right, or I'm sorry, that's bottom right. The bottom left image is from New Jersey, where they've got this kind of interesting tree in the curb zone. And then the top drawing is from New York City. So there are some cities doing this that we were able to reach out to and get some information from. So the criteria, thinking about where we might do these, or kind of the critical pieces that we're thinking about. And the two diagrams that you see are just illustrative diagrams. They're from the pedestrian design guide. They give us a starting point. But even as we've worked through this project already, we've learned lessons and kind of gotten a little bit past these diagrams. But in terms of criteria, there needs to be some existing on-street parking that we can reallocate. So looking at streets with on-street parking, curb tight sidewalks, the presence of curb tight sidewalks or a really narrow furnishing lane. So a street where you could not build or you could not plant trees, even if you wanted to. Really important to look at the underground utilities, which I'll go into a little bit more, but the first one I looked at was water, because we got to be really considerate of where the water line is. Want to make sure that we're not impacting emergency vehicle response. And then we want to make sure that it's not on the curb extension policy exemption map, which is just a wonky way of saying it's not a street that we've said that maybe we have a different plan for, so we don't want to preclude anything. So a street where we know we're going to build a protected bike lane in the future, or a street that's going to have a transit priority lane. We don't want to be building stuff out into the street just to, rip it out later, especially living infrastructure like a tree. So a lot to think about. And then this is from the tree code from urban forestry. This bullet list is all of the different pieces of infrastructure that we need to buffer away from. So things like being 10 feet from a fire hydrant, 10 feet from water meters, 5 feet from underground utilities and gas lines, 25 feet from intersections. The list just kind of goes on and on. But this starts to, with my previous slide and this slide, we were able to map this using our GIS and really start to bring down the possible places where we could do something like we could be planting something like this. And then, we want to look at, or I was really interested in looking at areas that have the most need for additional tree canopy. So places where it's hotter, we can kind of look at the urban heat map and make assumptions about the level of tree canopy that's out there. So I really like the graphic on the left. It's a screen grab from the news, and it's a data source from Professor Shondas at PSU, who does a lot of work with urban heat. And it really just shows you at a high level glance the temperature difference between areas that are really heavily tree canopied, like the West Hills, Mount Tabor, Rocky Butte and Powell Butte, and contrast those with the areas that have no tree canopy, like 82nd Avenue and Powell and Foster. The areas that are darker red or can be up to 20 degrees hotter than the areas in blue. So this was another piece of data that I used in the criteria, starting to think about, okay, where can we do this pilot project? Where can we build these using this grant money? So putting all of that into an analysis tool, a mapping tool, a cluster of streets, a set of streets rose to the top of locations where something like this would be possible using all of that criteria that I described. And so I'm just going to walk through a couple examples of places just so that you can kind of visually see the similarities between the corridors. This is Southeast Holgate, just a little bit east of I-205. You see there's on-street parking. You see that curb tight sidewalk, so no space for a street tree, even if we wanted to. Very wide arterial, very hot in the summer. Then this is Southeast Woodstock at 86th Avenue. Again, there's on-street parking to take. There is a furnishing zone, but it's very, very narrow. Urban forestry won't plant street trees in a furnishing zone less than 3 feet. So no trees in this location. Again, it mapped very hot using the heat index. Southeast Duke, this is at 75th. Again, I sound like a broken record. On-street parking, nowhere to plant a street tree, very hot, not a lot of shade in the corridor. So this cluster of streets in Brentwood, Darlington jumped out at me. Streets like Flavel and Duke and Woodstock and Holgate. I mean, I know that's not from Darlington, but this kind of cluster of streets that had these really similar characteristics. And so zooming in a bit more, using that PSU urban heat island data starts to show at even kind of a more granular scale of what that heat is looking like. And you really see the locations in Duke and along 82nd and 92nd and Flavel, just how bright red they are compared to, you know, if you look to the north at Mount Tabor Park, that's this nice blue and fading into the yellow. And actually Professor Shondus's study found during the heat dome that the hottest intersection in Portland was the intersection of 92nd Avenue and Woodstock. There's a great article in the Willamette Week about that and about some of his findings. And then I wanted to look at the equity matrix. So this is the PBOT equity matrix. There's a lot of information online about it, but it takes different kind of equity considerations like income, English spoken at home, race. There's a few different inputs, and it pops out kind of an index score. So the darker the color means the higher the score, more of an equity population. And so you see between 82nd and 92nd, you know, higher equity score really starts to kind of interesting when you think about the tree canopy and the heat and the equity, and there starts to be some similarities in the locations. And then because we're PBOT and transportation planners, I wanted to look at the traffic, the average daily traffic, and the average speed. So, you know, streets like Flavel and Woodstock and Holgate, of course, have higher speeds, higher volumes, and Duke has a little bit lower speed, lower volume. So thinking about, as we're going to be kind of building something out in the street as a pilot, really wanting to find a street and a corridor that that we're setting ourselves up for success, and finding a corridor that these are going to be healthy, happy trees as we pilot this and roll this out for the first time. And then thinking about Brentwood, Darlington, and just other projects that are coming to the area and ways we can kind of work together for some efficiency's sake. I just wanted to mention the Brentwood, Darlington Multimodal Improvements Project. I think I was looking further in your agenda and there was some more information about this, but there's a new neighborhood greenway coming on Napa Ogden. So that's a street that's signed as a neighborhood greenway where bikes and pedestrians are encouraged to use the street and travel on that street. So we would be, you know, for lower speed and lower volumes for cars. And then on Duke, there is sidewalk infill coming to Duke on the south side of the street, and lighting and new crossings coming, and then sidewalk infill on Flavel. And then someone mentioned in their introductions, the Lower Southeast Rising Area Planning Study that's also happening in this area. Brian Poole isn't the PM for PBOT anymore, but this is a joint study between PBOT and the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, really looking at transportation and land use together. And I like, even at a more granular level, looking at your specific neighborhood with the heat index and the location of cooling centers and other neighborhood amenities. And it really starts to jump out at, you know, Flavel and Duke, just how much some of these areas could really benefit from some street trees as at least one intervention. So we landed on Duke from 72nd to 92nd Avenue as the corridor for this pilot project. So that $550,000 that I described will all is being spent for this corridor. We've mapped out using all of that criteria that I described, with all the buffers from fire hydrants and bus stops and utilities, gas, water, sewer, all of that, and kind of opportunity mapped where we think the trees can go, or kind of how many per area on the corridor. So the water line on Duke is primarily on the south side of the street, particularly between 72nd and about 86th. It's very much on the south side of the street. And then as it travels east, it kind of skews a little bit more into the center. So we're primarily looking at tree planting on the north side of the street. So reallocating some of that on-street parking and building curbs and planting the trees in the street on the north side of the street. As we get a little further to the east, kind of in here, we think there might be some opportunity to, because the water line does skew a bit more into the middle, that we could even add some trees on the south side. And then, so this is, this will ebb and flow as we get survey and get a little bit further into the design. But high level, this is about what we're thinking. So what exactly is this project doing? So site refinement, design, and construction of tree curb bump outs plus tree maintenance. And I'll talk a bit more about the maintenance piece. Outreach to all the adjacent property owners and folks living in the properties.
Gina, could I interrupt you just for a moment for a
Sure.
question?
Yeah.
Gail, go ahead.
We're getting sidewalks on the south side of Duke. Would it not make sense to add trees with the sidewalks and do it all at once?
Yeah, that's a great question, Gail. No, so sidewalk infill. So there is a lot of sidewalk already, or there's some sidewalk already on the south side of the street. So infill is just matching what's already there. There is some property acquisition happening with that project. I'm not actually involved in that project, but from what I understand, there is some sidewalk or some property acquisition, even just to get the sidewalk to be wide enough, let alone like there's not enough room to build the street out with street trees on that side. Unfortunately, yeah. And that's a federal project, so it was already all scoped and budgeted by the time I came around to it. So yeah, that's a good question though. Yeah, it's kind of that example like I was showing at the beginning where you can either go back into the property or you can go out into the street, and it's a delicate balance there. So because we can primarily only do this on one side of the street, the north side of the street, because of the water line, we are going to be offering, actually I shouldn't say plant yard trees, offering yard trees to anyone on the south side of the street that would like a yard tree. And then we are also creating standards and guidance so that this treatment can be applied more broadly or in other places once we have this pilot completed. And then I just want to jump back up to the tree maintenance piece. So typically, for almost all street trees in Portland, so that's the tree that's built kind of between this, or that's planted between the sidewalk and the street, call that a street tree. And that in city code is the ownership and maintenance responsibility of the adjacent property owner. And we just didn't really think that it was fair, and just getting feedback early on in the grant process, didn't think it was fair to be, building these in front of folks' houses and then saying, oh, and here you're stuck with the bill of maintaining and owning this tree. So we're actually doing an update to city code that says that in this instance, for this particular set of trees, that these are now a city asset. And so these will be the ownership and maintenance of the city and not the adjacent property owner. So that's a pretty big shift from the norm. So project timeline, last fall and winter, I was working on the site selection, refinement, the coordination with stakeholders. So PBOT, where I work, and the Bureau of Environmental Services and Urban Forestry and the Water Bureau, lots of cross-bureau coordination that PBOT's leading, that I'm leading. And then right now, and kind of into the summer, working on the technical design refinement. So those big green dots that says like 4 trees or 2 trees or 3 trees, really kind of focusing in on each of those locations and figuring out, okay, what is actually possible here? Where actually is the gas meter and the water meter, and things that aren't always mapped perfectly. So doing site visits and making sure that we have all that stuff mapped properly. And then outreach with the community. So coming to meet with you all. And then I'll be starting more direct outreach with the actual properties along Duke. And then this is a pretty aggressive timeline, but really hoping that we can go into construction of these tree wells, these bump outs, late summer, early fall, continuing with the community outreach so that we're ready for the winter planting season with a goal of tree planting. This might be a little aggressive, but December, January, March of this coming winter, and then project completion and the grant reporting spring and summer. So we're right now finalizing the corridor design with our civil and traffic engineers, mostly civil engineers, and of course with urban forestry, been working really, really closely with them and their tree experts over there. And community engagement, meeting with you all, start getting mailers out to folks in the next couple weeks, refining our engineering drawings, and then refining those individual planting locations and really working with the community to make sure that folks understand why we're doing this and where we're doing this and shifting plantings if needed. There is a project website where this presentation is actually posted online already, and there's more information, including my contact information. And that's where I'll be posting updated maps and information as our graphics team kind of rolls that out. And then here's my email, Gina.Gastaldi@portlandoregon.gov if folks want to reach out, and I definitely welcome folks to reach out, particularly folks that live in the neighborhood. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I see hands up, and I can jump back to the slide deck if needed.
Okay, Laura Lee, go ahead, and then Tina. And then Kim. Laura Lee, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here. I heard you say that the trees were going to be property of the city. Is it Portland Parks and Rec that are going to be maintaining the health of the trees and making sure that they're doing okay?
Yeah, so we're working on an MOU, like a memorandum of understanding with urban forestry right now. Actually just sent a draft to my supervisor today to make sure it's looking okay. So there's been a lot of work behind the scenes to get this rolling, just because it's such a kind of different project for PBOT. So urban forestry, typically when they do an establishment period, it's 3 years. And I've been working closely with the urban forester and her staff, and we bumped that up to 5 years. So as part of the contract and the MOU with urban forestry, they'll be on contract to do the planting, the watering establishment for 5 years, and the pruning. And then after that, it'll go back to being it'll be a PBOT asset. So yeah, the city will prune. If something happens, the tree gets damaged, we'll come out and replant it. Well, hopefully that won't be very common.
Mhm.
And then again, like PBOT, if we do want to prune it, we'll actually have to get, from what I understand, and we're working on some of the details, so don't quote me on this, but we might even need to get a permit. Typically, we'd have to get a permit from urban forestry to go out and prune the trees. Make sure that the bike lane is, because there is a bike lane on part of Duke, not all of it, but make sure we have the proper traffic control out there. And yeah, so we're working on some of those like fine grained details right now. But I'm pretty confident we'll get to a good agreement on that.
Okay, very fine. Okay, Kim, go ahead. And then Tina, sorry.
I have 2 questions. The first one is, you mentioned that the traffic on Duke, and I'm assuming that's specifically from 72nd to 92nd, had an average speed of 27.
Mhm.
And is that's got to be after the speed bump additions? Or
Yeah,
do you
I'm
know?
not sure when that was grabbed from. I think kind of the high level takeaway of that slide is when you look at the kind of cluster of streets in Brentwood, Darlington, because I was, kind of, do we do this on Flavel? Do we do this on Woodstock? Do we do this on Duke? And Duke just has the lowest speeds of the 3 and the lowest volumes of the 3. And it seems like it has just really different contexts from Woodstock and Flavel. And we wanted to do this on a street. We definitely could have kind of tucked this away in a neighborhood or But we wanted to put it on a street that had more eyes on it, a little bit more traffic on it so that folks can see it, be curious, be like wondering, okay, what this is. I want this on my street too, and not, tuck it away in a really low volume residential neighborhood.
Yeah, I was mostly curious if there was any kind of statistics or research paperwork out there on the speed limits that you referenced so that I could look at them. I'm genuinely curious because,
I see.
50-second to 70-second is a lot of speeding, but we don't have speed bumps. That stretch from
okay.
70-second to 90-second, which also includes the elementary school.
Yeah.
They have speed bumps. So if there was like solid evidence that that was lowering the speed, I'd be really interested in that at any rate. And then my other question was, how do these tree wells, out in the street, how do they provide traffic calming? And is there research for that? Or is it just for canopy to, lower temps and beautification? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kimberly. So the tree bump outs will be about the width of a car. So you can imagine kind of a car in the parking lane, and depends on the context. We're looking at some that are smaller depending on kind of the location, and maybe some that could even be large enough to have 2 trees in them, or maybe even kind of a grove of trees depending on exactly on the context. And, anytime we kind of put something out into the street, it almost creates like a chicane effect where you have something kind of coming out, particularly if you can do it on a couple of sides. And so it narrows that space, the kind of visual space for cars, encourages people to slow down a little bit. I don't have any like data sources off the top of my head, but I can follow up via email with something.
Yeah, if it's easy for you, if not, I'll Google it. I genuinely don't know. So I was curious.
Yeah. If you want to Google,
effective it is.
Google, like chicanes are a cool treatment, that do help to lower speeds. And, yeah.
Okay, Tina, then Mo.
Okay, so the statement of planting trees, which is phenomenal, and I'm very supportive of the cooling of the areas. Is there a way to help encourage the planting of trees that also feeds our people? I mean, it can work synergetically, but we have enough hungry people in our city. Can we make it where it's feeding people and encourage the neighborhoods to help glean it and process it and put it in our food pantries?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in terms of tree species selection, that's urban forestry's purview. I'm not a tree expert, but I am learning a lot through this process. So they have approved tree species lists that we can go off of, that the tree inspector assigned to this project will be selecting trees. I know that he's particularly interested in looking at really climate resilient trees, because these are going to be hit with a lot of sun for a lot of the day. And we know that things are only getting warmer, unfortunately. So looking at climate resilient trees, I know is going to be an important topic in this. And then also, this doesn't really answer your question, but just thinking about other kind of innovative things that we're doing, because this is a pilot and we want to learn as much as possible. We're looking, and he's doing research about different soil mixes, which I just thought dirt was dirt until I learned about this, but it's not. No, you guys know way more than I do about that. So we're going to be experimenting and trying out some different soil mixes as part of this pilot so that we can really understand what types of soil mixes work best, which ones don't get compacted so much, which ones can retain the water better. So we're looking at experimenting with a few different things. And then I guess one more thing, Tina, we will be working with the adjacent property owners or folks living in the adjacent properties to do the tree selection. So we'll provide a menu of options of different trees that we can do, and then folks can pick which one they would like. So kind of a fun way, I think, to include community.
Yeah, you kind of answered my question. We're not going to feed our people.
Yeah,
Because
probably
seeing the
not.
list, there's no food on that list.
Yeah. I would encourage you to maybe reach out to the Urban Forestry Commission if that's a space that you're interested in advocating for. I know that they have a lot of folks anyone's welcome to attend those meetings.
Okay, thank you, Tina. Thank you very much, Gina. Let's see, Mo has a question.
Thank you for that. It was a great presentation. I had a question on the maturity of the trees. You know, are they going to be little babies that were waiting around to shade us, or are they going to, older trees cost more, so that's kind of what I was thinking. Are we going to, be able to use that shade?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that there's been a little bit of talk of if we can bump up some of the tree caliper size right away and get a larger tree. That's a good question, Mo. I'll have to follow up with urban forestry on that one. I know that, so, it's not only what's under the ground, but it's also what's above in terms of overhead utilities. And so there are the high voltage wires are partially on the north side, of course, because that's the side that we want to plant on, but it does traverse a little bit back and forth. And so the locations where we have high voltage wires, we're going to have to do smaller stature trees, like kind of in the medium stature size. And then the locations where there aren't overhead wires, we're actually going to try to bump up those planting areas as large as possible to do larger canopy trees. So we're really looking at these sites along the corridor, like very, there's a lot of nuance to think about. And so the goal though, and BES as the grant funder is really interested in us getting as large of trees as possible. So looking at how we can increase soil volumes as much as possible and get larger planting locations is definitely, we're right in the middle of that right now.
I just had one follow-up, if you don't mind. I'm actually on Flavelle Drive, and I don't know if that's somewhere you have looked at. So there are no sidewalks, and I don't know, I think the trees are set further back. So if there were to be additional funding in the future, just off the top of your head, how would you approach something like Flavelle Drive? If you're familiar, it's quite busy, and maybe as busy as Woodstock, depending on the time of the day.
Yeah, so one of the goals of this project that I mentioned earlier is that we really want to have some standard drawings at the end of this so that we can replicate this in other parts of the city and starting to kind of get ahead of some of the funding that we know is coming down the pipeline, particularly with the Portland Clean Energy Fund. Their tree canopy funding, which isn't out yet. They're still working on the details of that, but and we haven't applied for anything or anything yet, but just knowing that there's funding coming around street trees, which is one of the goals of the PSF money. I mean, I would love to see us be able to do this in lots of different contexts and lots of different parts of town. But for right now, we're really focused on the pilot, having a really successful pilot, getting under construction, hopefully by the end of this year, and getting the trees in the ground and having that real proof of concept that this is something that we as a transportation agency can partner with urban forestry on to deliver more trees for Portland.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you, Mo and Gina. Lisa, Jameson, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was any thought to planting trees in the middle of the street, if there are very wide streets where planting it in the middle of the street would give a lot more coverage of the asphalt or the part that heats up.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so I don't know how much you guys are how much you follow PBOT, but we did just release the 82nd Avenue, some drawings for 82nd Avenue, and that includes a tree planted median for 82nd. I live right off 82nd, so I'm very excited about that. My kids go to school right off 82nd, so I travel that corridor a lot. And yeah, so the plan as of now is for PBOT to do tree planting in the median on 82nd. We tried to do it on Outer Division, but unfortunately for trees, the Bull Run watershed water pipe is right down the middle of Division, and so we really couldn't plant any trees along there. But yeah, trees in the median is definitely an option when underground utilities don't preclude it. Yeah.
Okay, these are really great questions.
Yeah.
I have a question just quickly. Are
Sure.
your trees going to be watered by being connected to the water line that runs along the street?
No, so there will be these tree bump outs that we're constructing. They won't be attached to the existing curb. We won't be touching the existing curb. There will be about a 1-foot channel in between the existing curb and the trees. So when it rains, as the water travels down that gutter, it will water the tree and infiltrate into that space. And then other than that, urban forestry for the first 5 years will be doing the manual watering.
Oh, you mean like with the water truck coming
Yeah,
by?
exactly.
I see, okay.
Mhm.
Because the summers are going to be getting hotter and hotter, so the trees really need the water then, so.
That's right. Yeah, so urban forestry's establishment period for trees has been 3 years, and they bumped this one up to 5, just with
I
the
noted
understanding
that.
that, yeah, even young trees now with things being the way they are need a couple additional years of establishment. And then looking at kind of climate friendly trees, I know is a big consideration with our urban forestry partner, who's going to be doing the tree species kind of menu of options that folks can choose from. And then for the yard trees, folks will be responsible for planting those and maintaining them themselves, as with any kind of typical yard tree giveaway that urban forestry does. And but we will be providing planting guidance and watering guidance and things like that.
Okay, very fine. Are there any other questions?
See a bunch of stuff in the chat.
I beg your pardon there.
Oh, just
Marley?
looking at the chat. Oh, people having a good discussion about edibles on the approved planting
okay.
list.
All right, but no more direct questions for Gina. Okay, very fine. I'm delighted to hear that this presentation is posted at the website, Gina, and thank you so much for such an excellent presentation. It was really packed
Thanks.
with information and very, very helpful. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
And if you all would like, I'd be really happy to come back as we get a little bit further into design, into some of those specific locations that I'm talking about.
We would love that.
Yeah, and get some feedback from folks. You know, we are going to be removing some on-street parking, reallocating, as I like to say, just using that space in a different way. And I know there's a lot of sensitivities around that. So really open to conversations and dialogue with folks. And I'll be happy to work with folks if they need like an ADA parking spot installed in front of their house. I can help with that as part of the project, just making sure that people understand why we're doing this and ways that we can help as city bureaucrats.
Okay, very fine. Well, you know, if you will keep in touch with Vivian Schung
Mhm.
and tell her, she wasn't able to be here just at the moment, but I'll talk to her about, tell her that, you know, you're very willing to come back and talk to us about different designs and so on.
Yeah.
And, so if you'll just let her know when you might be ready to do that.
Sure.
Maybe this
Yeah.
later this summer, then we
Yeah.
will put you right on the agenda as fast as we can.
Yeah, I think summer would be great. Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you so
Great.
much, Gina. That was
Yeah.
wonderful.
And I just put my email in the chat. So if anyone has other questions or thoughts, feel free to reach out.
Okay, very fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye. Okay, so we are now at 7:50, which puts us a little behind schedule. We have some reports. What we can do is take a break or push on through. What would you like? Keep going, says Mo. So does Gail. Okay, all right, and Carrie, thank you. All right, let's do that. We'll be real fast with the reports. I'm going to share screen for a moment and so that I can show you a diagram. So the first report we wanted to share with you is that TriMet, and I've probably mentioned this before, but here's Vivian now. Okay, TriMet is going to put line 10 back on Harold Street in part. We were hoping that it would come down Duke, so you could see my can you see my arrow moving? Okay, so going along Steel, would have gone down to Duke and then over to 72nd and down. Instead, they're going to remain on Harold as it does now, but instead of going all the way into Lentz, then it will go south to on 72nd to Flavel and then out to the Willamette National Cemetery. And what this does is it really connects a large part of our neighborhood with the Mount Scott Community Center, which is something we begged for years. And now they're giving it to us, and many of us said, oh, well, we don't want that anymore. But they said, it's too late. You know, the weight of all of that outcry from before convinced them that it was important to connect us with the Mount Scott Community Center, which is just about to undergo an 18 to 24 month huge renovation. So we'll have service there, but it'll be closed for a while. But that's just the way things go. All right. And then as far as the Brentwood Darlington Community Center, as you know, Pam and I have been speaking with the executive director of Impact Northwest, and we are working on a plan now. And the first part involves seeking bids for building rehabilitation. Impact has begun doing that, which is really exciting. And we have launched the early stages of our effort to secure endorsements from influential organizations. And then we will be going on to figure out how we'll work with local government agencies to get financial assistance. And then we have some legal stuff to straighten out that you all know about, including who owns the building, which nobody does right now. So we'll keep you informed. And then there are some things that we as a board can do, and I'm going to be excited to talk about it with you later on. Then a quick update on the sidewalk infill that's been mentioned a couple of times. I checked recently, was told that project design is still continuing. PBOT has been acquiring temporary rights of way to construct the project, and they expect to start in late summer or early fall of this year, and then work through the winter into 2024. So a year from now, we might have complete sidewalks on both of our two major east-west streets, and that's going to be really wonderful. And Brian Poole, who was working on the TGM, has now been put in charge of the sidewalk and greenway project. And then finally, as we discussed early in the meeting tonight, we are having I'll just go to our next part, our spring green on April 1st, electronics recycling, seed plant swap, bike repair and workshop, recycling game, which is an educational game. And maybe if Gina, Lisa is able to arrange it, we'll have a ed table for the net people. So we have got the B is coming out soon, and it will have this insert in it that tells what's accepted and what's not accepted. And on the reverse side is information about what Bikes for Humanity can accept. All right. Okay, any questions on those 4 items? And Pam, would you like to add anything to my very brief exposition on BDCC?
No, I think it looks good, Stephanie, so thank you.
Okay, very fine. All right, I'm going to stop sharing now. And all right, we are done with the general membership part of our meeting, and we're ready to plunge into our board meeting part of our 2 hours. So before we go there, are there any comments or questions about what we've heard tonight? For example, Aiden, what did you think of what you heard tonight?
I'm really excited for all the changes that I heard about the
the new trees being brought into Duke and Holgate and everything.
Oh, good. I'm glad you were here to learn about that. It's a big deal. It's really important as we head into trying to survive the climate blows that are heading our ways. Very fine. So we're really glad that you were at our meeting, and you're welcome to stay for the whole thing. So I don't know what your scouts require, but maybe you listen to the administrative part as well, and you're very welcome to do that. And Kimberly Holtz, I see, has put an entry into the chat. Kimberly, would you like to speak to us?
Sure. Hi, my name is Kimberly Holt. I'm with Summer Free for All Cultural Events. I'm your producer for your movie in the park this coming up summer. So I just wanted to introduce myself and say hello. Thank you so much for inviting me to your meeting. I do have to log off here in about 5 minutes, but I just wanted to say I'm really excited to work with you all. I just wanted to introduce myself.
I'm sorry that I didn't call on you sooner. I beg your pardon.
You are just fine. This was an awesome meeting. So nice to see what you all are doing. It's awesome. So thank you for even having me.
Well, thank you in advance for all the work you're going to be doing to help us have our fabulous movies in the park. You and Gail.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm really excited.
Gail, you have your hand raised.
Yes. Our movie is in Brentwood Park, July 21st. That's a Friday night. And Rogue One, Star Wars. So call all your Star Wars peoples. The 503 troop.
All right, very cool. Very cool.
Okay, thank you, Gail. Thank you, Kimberly. All right. Okay. Oh, okay. All right, Star Wars. All right. Very fine.
Rogue One.
Okay, well, let's go on to our board business unless y'all want a break. You want to plow on through? Keep going? Okay. All right. The first order of business is to approve the minutes of February 2023. Laura Lee?
Hi, everyone. I sent out the minutes last Sunday, and I only received one correction, a spelling correction, which made me kind of do a little happy jig. So I have corrected that, and I move to approve the minutes for February 2023 with the correction, the spelling correction completed.
Okay, well, I'll second that. And so now I have to call on everyone. Okay, Mo,
Aye.
Pam,
Aye.
Gail,
Aye.
Kim,
Aye.
Laura Lee,
Aye.
Derek,
Aye.
and I call on myself, and I'm an I as well. Did I miss any board members?
Aye from me, Vivian.
Vivian, yes, I miss Vivian. I'm sorry. Yes, Vivian. And you are an I. Okay, very fine. All right, the minutes are approved unanimously. And then let's go on to the treasurer's report. I can share screen again so that we can see, have a look at the treasurer's report. And here it is. Okay, Pam, would you like to go
Sure.
through this with us?
So I also sent this out a couple weeks ago, I think, and did not receive any comments from board members. So this is the treasurer's report for January. And you'll see at the bottom that as of January 31st, we had a forecasted balance of $6,338.62. That includes $500 in Southeast Uplift Communication Funds that were received February 6th. So you'll see that moving up in the report next month. And the forecasted balance is what remains after our April 1st e-cycling event, which, as you'll recall, is covered by Metro Grant. And after setting aside $1,000 for the Movies in the Park event this summer. So we're not broke, but I know we need to fundraise for future years or other events that we would like to offer later in the year. Any questions?
No, but I have a comment. I made a comment on your report. The $50, right? That
Oh,
That's an
okay.
important-
But I always have Stephanie to proof it before I send it to the full board. So we
Oh.
had this great debate about, how things should be posted in an accounting fashion. We went back and forth a couple of times. But
Yeah,
I think we
behind it-
both agreed on what's showing on your screen, right?
Right, yeah. Okay, no, I just wanted to make a little noise, that's all. I wasn't important at all.
Very
But, all
good. So
right.
if there are no further comments. I move to approve the treasurer's report for January 2023. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Kim beat out Gail. Gail was ready to a second, I think. Okay, very fine. All right, I'll call the roll. Let me call Vivian first.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Laura Lee
Aye.
and Kim,
Aye.
Gail,
Aye.
Derek,
Aye.
Mo,
Aye.
Pam,
Aye.
and I call on myself. Aye. All right, approved unanimously. Very fine. Pam, thank you for all the work that you do on the treasurer's stuff. It's really amounted to a lot. I want everyone to know that behind the scenes, many hours, and we really need, we have to have this done. It's like the minutes, it's got to be done.
Well, you're
Okay.
welcome, Stephanie. If I have just another minute, I'd
Sure.
like to comment on the status of the renewal of the Sewell fiscal sponsorship.
Oh, fine.
So I'd like to remind the board that you approved our renewal application last month. The current fiscal sponsorship agreement expires on the 23rd of this month, March. We're waiting for Southeast Uplift to forward the new revised fiscal sponsorship agreement to us. It hasn't been received yet. And so what that means is that unless Southeast Uplift agrees to extend the current agreement, I will need, as your treasurer, to sign the new agreement prior to the next BDNA board meeting. And if there are objectionable terms in the revised agreement that we haven't seen yet, we might need to call a special meeting. So hopefully that's not the case. We can, work it out with Southeast Uplift if there are any unusual changes in the agreement from last year. So that's just an FYI.
Oh, okay, fine. Thank you very much. And yeah, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes between us and Southeast Uplift, and so that's the fiscal sponsorship is a large part of it. Fortunately, the new forms for the next, I hope, 40 years are much simplified from what we've had to do in the past. So that's that's something we're very grateful for. Okay, thank you very much, Pam. Okay, so I want to move on to a proposed process for BDNA board and officer elections. And I was going to seek board approval tonight, but we've decided to ask the Southeast Uplift staff to have a look at our proposal and just make sure that that there's nothing about it that they would that we ought to change. But the idea is to deviate from what we've done in the past to make our elections more open and available to the neighborhood at large. In the past, we haven't had board members, for example, declare ahead of time, yes, I want to run for the board again. So we haven't been able to advertise to the neighborhood, oh, look, there's a slate of candidates for the board. And nor have we asked the neighborhood enough in advance to whether residents would like to run for the board as well. we've notified the neighborhood shortly before the election, and then election night rolls around and people just show up, and whoever's there and is still willing to be on the board gets voted on, and then it's done. And same thing with officers. So I wanted to propose that we behave, that we adopt a way of presenting ourselves that's more like what official government candidates do, which is declare candidacy and offer a brief candidate statement so that we know what each of us is interested in, and can convey that to residents, and then put ourselves forward for as candidates for the board. And it's just a way of starting the process earlier and making it a little more open, transparent to the residents at large, and also include them more and send a stronger message. Hey, if you out there are interested in joining our board, here is an opportunity to do that. So I will bring this back in at the April meeting and ask for your support then, because by then we'll have had a chance to discuss it with Matthew and other staff at Southeast Uplift, and make sure that what we're thinking is fair and honest and a good approach. So I cannot make a motion tonight.
People can make yard signs at our craft night. Like, I'm running for the board, vote for me.
Oh, they could. Yes, that's
And we
right.
can-
Yeah. Come to our next next craft circle will be next Thursday night if you want to start. I love that idea. Yeah, making yard signs for yourself. Yeah. So, all right. Well, this will give you something to think about, though. If you want to continue with the board, which I hope you all do, and how we may be going about it, which is more like what the big guys do, right? Or big girls in official government campaigns. Then I do want to go on to something that I can put to you as a motion for approval, and that is to create a new website for BDNA. We have, when I started thinking about all of our forms of communication and opportunities that we have, it was amazing. I mean, we have paper stuff, flyers, brochures, cards, posters, newspaper inserts. We can create press releases, hold interviews, write letters to the editor. We have an electronic mailing list of I think it's over 1,200 entries. We have a website. There's social media to post on. We have a YouTube channel where we post our meetings, our meeting videos. We've held forums. We have presentations like tonight's presentation from Gina Gastaldi and from Carrie Carlson. We have testified before governmental bodies. I testified on our behalf to TriMet earlier this year. We have social events, movies in the park, National Night Out. We can talk to our neighbors, our family, our friends, and we have more. There's swag to hand out that's getting on other people's calendars, and attending meetings. So there are all kinds of ways in which we communicate things about the BDNA. It's really an amazing array. So a few months ago, I attended a workshop offered by Southeast Uplift, and the person who ran the workshop is a businessman who specialized in communications, and his message was that there's nothing more important than the website, and all communications, or as many as possible, should send people to the website. So we don't really do that very well right now. But where we do send people to the website, our website is not doing the job it should be doing. It's been helpful over the years, but we've got big projects, a climate crisis, and we should have a site that's very beautiful, it's easy to navigate, and filled with up-to-date useful information and links to resources that are really, it's really easy to use, and it's just a rich resource for the community. And I would also like to see it have a community calendar where we are posting everything that is being offered by Master Gardeners, by Moose Lodge, by LGL, by Black Futures Farm, by the schools, everything that's going on. And so that would also support the goal, which is to be have a website that's a community builder, a climate educator, a calendar holder, and a help to residents who are burdened with energy costs, food costs, or in danger of being forced out of their homes because of gentrification. So a resident of ours named Brett Farrell, who's been attending our meetings, Laura Lee, I'll call on you in a second, wait, has offered to create a Squarespace website for us, and he would volunteer that work. The cost to host and own the site is $276 per year. That's $23 per month. This is a rate we can afford. Now we have a free WordPress.com website, and it's crammed with ads and so on. It doesn't have much functionality. And I think it's time, in my opinion, for us to graduate to a website that is it will do what we need our website to do. Okay, but Laura Lee.
I just wanted to comment that I 100% support you in this. Also, the stuff that you've done so far as chair, putting takeaways up from board meetings and linking them to your posts on Facebook. I have actually, even doing the minutes, I've been going back to our webpage now and seeing how it can be utilized. And I've been sending the link to our website to my neighbors when I'm like, oh, we talked about this in the board meeting. Oh, wait, Stephanie put this information up. And so I've been sending links. And even just in this short amount of time that you've been chair and utilizing our website, I've seen the benefits of it. So I support you in this. I think it's a great idea.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Laura Lee. I really appreciate what you just said very much. Lisa, you have a comment. Lisa Jameson.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. I was just gonna say that $23 a month is a lot of money for hosting, that you can take your WordPress site and expand it and host it on several different local servers or not local servers for probably half of that. So I don't know if that gentleman only wants to work with Squarespace, but you could be spending probably half that much and sticking with a WordPress site, but just making it more complex. Just a thought.
I understand that Squarespace is easier for non-techie people to work with. And I would like to be able to share working on the website with other people. And I don't like being the only one. And I myself am working on a little website of my own through WordPress, which I'm hosting through Bluehost. And I think it's fairly challenging to work with WordPress. So it was for this reason that Squarespace seemed attractive to me.
Well, I also built a website this year on GoDaddy, and it was about $10 a month. So just so you know that there are less expensive options, and that was a very simple site that pretty much anybody, I mean, I built the site and I'm no techie. So anyway, just worth considering.
Okay, no, thank you. Thank you for that input. I'm not familiar with the GoDaddy site. I'm familiar with WordPress, and I know that it is very challenging to become literate in that. So I don't know what to say. We can bring this matter back, or we could proceed. It depends on what the board would like to do. I feel that we can afford $276 per year and myself, but
Stephanie, I think, having just presented the treasurer's report, that, if you're more comfortable with Squarespace and feel that more people, would be able to assist in maintaining the website, then I think the difference between $10 and $23 a month is fairly insignificant, considering how important the website is to BDNA. So I support Squarespace, or whichever website platform you would like to use.
I think, Lisa, I appreciate your suggestion, but I think I would like to stick with Squarespace in making my motion to approve. So I will make a motion and then call on you one by one. And if I receive a second. Okay, so I move that we accept Brett Farrell's offer to his volunteer offer to create a Squarespace website for the BDNA. It will cost $23 per month, and but it should be very accessible to other board members so that we can share work associated with posting and maintaining the site. So that is my motion. And do I hear a second?
I'll second.
And who is that?
Me, Pam.
Oh, Pam, thank you. Okay, I didn't see. All right, well, let me call the roll. And okay, Mo.
If I could just comment.
Oh,
on
sure,
that.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
I just would say in this moment that I feel like some folks are putting a lot of effort in keeping things going here. And I think the ease of use is important right now, and, small difference. But I think the comments should be noted and maybe looked at over time if there, were, more economical or whatever. But if we're committed for a year, going forward, all good. But I want to just say, people are working hard, and if it's easier to use something that's more easily gettable at the moment, I'm good with that. So I will say aye also for approving that.
Okay, Laura Lee, you have a comment.
I'm sorry. I have a question, a couple of
Sure.
questions before I vote. The same thing that Mo was saying, doing it for a year sounds like a great idea. What happens after the year? Do we still need somebody to help maintain the site, or is it our site? Or I'm a little confused on that portion. And then my second question really fast is, we won't have any ads, correct? It'll just be.
That's right, no ads.
Yeah, so I was just curious, like, approving it for a year sounds like a really great idea, but what happens if we're not completely satisfied after that year?
Well, I mean, okay, so this is how I would see it, is that as we make our way through the year, we'll start to get a feel for whether we like this website, whether we like its ease of use and so on. If we do not, then we can begin exploring other things. I think that it's not clear to me that whether we have to commit a year at a time. It may be that it's just, I think it's just $23 per month. But even if we had to commit for another year, that would give us a year to explore the alternatives and then make a changeover. So I don't think that there's any risk myself. I understand what you're saying. We don't want to be caught without a website, but and it may be that as we get to about 8 months or 9 months or so, we'll have a good feel for our website is performing, and we can start making some decisions at that time. Maybe then we go to look at the GoDaddy and just say, okay, we'll go to that. Gail.
Will we be able to access it or just use it? There's a difference. Could I upload pictures to it perchance?
We'll give you access.
Okay,
Because I need more board members to be helping me post stuff at the website and keep it alive and interesting and wonderful. So if you want to post photographs, we would love that. Thank you.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it just works like any website. You give administrative access, and there you are. So we would trust you to post photographs. That would be wonderful.
Okay, then
Okay. All right, so Pam,
Aye.
Derek,
Aye.
okay, Kim,
Aye.
Laura Lee,
Aye.
okay, Vivian,
I, and I also want to say that I agree with what Mo was saying and Laura lies.
okay, so shall we, maybe I should have amended the motion, is that right, Pam? Help me here, or Matthew, help me with the procedure. Shall we say that we evaluate, that the motion is to evaluate the website performance as we reach, say, month 9 of our year, to see whether we wish to go in another direction?
no, we don't need to because we'll do that anyway.
Yeah,
It's as,
I don't
it's
think you need
as
to amend the motion.
I think-
implied.
I think the
Okay.
motion is fine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, very fine. All right, thank you. Let's see, well, then I'll call on myself and I will vote aye. Have I missed any board member on this round of voting? 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I don't think so. Okay, well, then we have adopted this measure. I will tell Brett Farrell, and I'll start working with him, but I'll be consulting all of you. And please, I'll need your feedback and your desires and your hopes as we work on this, and we'll keep it very open and share with all of you. All right, thank you. I think this is going to be exciting, and thank you very much. All right.
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Sure.
I know that Lorelei mentioned posting to the Facebook. Which Facebook is it? I was just looking to make sure I had it because I just haven't been on Facebook a lot lately. And when I pulled up the Brentwood Darlington Neighborhood Association, it says that the page is archived.
I know we've got to I've got to solve that problem. And here's what happened. We have a Facebook page.
Mhm.
And a couple of years ago, we let somebody create a Facebook group that is
Oh,
attached to our Facebook page.
oh, maybe I'm in the
And
group.
it was supposed to collect ideas and opinions and just be a place where residents who are aware of the BDNA would post information and their opinions and desires and so on, but it never worked.
Mhm.
And so the person who created it archived it. But what I understand is that we need to rename it, maybe ZZ Brentwood Darlington group, or whatever it is, so that it will drop out of sight. So I want it to go away because it's very confusing,
Mhm.
and we shouldn't ever have allowed it
Mhm.
to begin with.
Is there a
And,
way to just change ownership of it, of the group, to you or to somebody on the board?
Okay, I don't know. I'm gonna have to get a Facebook expert to help me understand what is involved in dealing with a Facebook group that is associated to one's Facebook page.
Okay. So where are you posting on Facebook? I just want to make sure I'm following the right.
I just added it to the chat. Do you
Oh,
want to,
thanks. Thank
do you
you.
want to
Appreciate
try
that.
and see if that works real fast, Kim?
Yeah. Although,
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, everybody.
Yeah.
That we should never have let that happen.
I think you can have it transferred to you. If you know the person and they're willing to do it. Because they would just make you like admin of the group. And take
Right.
take
But
themselves off
then
of
I
it.
can get rid of the group.
Yeah,
Can
and start
rename
over.
it. I can rename it ZZ Brentwood Darlington, so it'll go to the bottom of the Facebook lists. And that's what I need to find out.
I think you can just deactivate it once you
Yeah.
get administrative rights.
Right.
Is that different from archiving?
Yes.
And
I'll
that worked.
look into it, but I think that deactivating it just makes it disappear from everybody's, it kind of puts it on hold and disappears. If
Okay,
you
well, I
archive
can,
it, you can see all the previous posts. But if you deactivate it, it just kind of goes away, is my understanding.
oh, could you possibly verify that, Laura Lee? I know that you're really swamped, but if you had a moment and could verify that, and I can reach out to the person who created the Facebook group and ask her if she'll make me admin.
Yeah, I definitely will. I think I think I'm right though, but I'll look into it and let you know privately, Stephanie. Did that work, Kim?
It did. Thank you. Now I know.
Okay, fine. And I'll reach out to Maria Etheridge and see what I can do. And yeah, we have to get rid of that confusing the competition with our Facebook website. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Kim. I've been going straight to the website and posting, and so I haven't encountered the group anymore, and so I've been hoping that nobody else encounters it, but that was not the case. So thank you for letting me know. Okay. All right. Let's see. Kim DeLeo, do you have anything to tell us about the SOL board meeting of February 2023?
And I'll make it quick because I know we're almost at time. So the question last meeting was wanting to know what the community agreements were specifically.
Oh, yes.
And
right.
so it is an agreement between all who are participating on the board to follow the following community agreements, and they list them. And essentially, come prepared to participate, be curious, think boldly. And I can send this out to the group in case we want to adopt that in some way. Strive to practice and embody cultural humility and anti-racist values. Use gender inclusive language. Encourage and respect diverse perspectives, allow for questions, dissent, and debate. Consider the earned and unearned privileges that inform your lived experience and perspectives. Share the floor, let one person speak at a time, and give people time to express themselves. Practice the art of waiting by asking, why am I talking? Move up, move back, elevate your participation or elevate your listening and reflection. Intentions do not always align with impact. Acknowledge intent, address impact, center the impacted party. And lastly, acknowledge and celebrate our successes.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
That was very well done.
If you could, if you could send that list out to us, to the board, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay, Gail, did you have? Oh, that's just your thumbs up. Yeah, I'd say, okay, very fine. Oh, thank you very much, Kim, for that. Yeah, I'd like us to consider it because the items on it are, I think, are very valuable, are valid. Yeah, so we can have a look at it and see if we'd like to adopt it as a code for ourselves. Okay, finally, I'm sorry, Mo, we're running out of time, but could you give us a quick rundown on next door trending topics and provide us a safety or security tip?
Sure, and I realize with the time constraints,
I'm sorry about
I'll
that,
just,
but
no, I think I'll just be able to just say what I would want everyone is to just, this is more on the lines of survival in this times of climate impacting our world with recent snowstorm. Basically what I want to say on that, just imagine if you were one of the people sitting in your car and you were by yourself, would you have the shoes to walk in that snow and leave if you left your car? Do you have enough juice in your phone? Do you have a flashlight? Do you have, you're driving around with your summer clothes on, or do you have appropriate clothes? And same for the summertime, where we're now having some days in 100 degrees. Again, if there was something that caused vehicles that you could not get home and you had to walk, because if you call for help, a lot of people are going to have that same idea. They might not get to you. So I'm just saying, plan ahead. If you are on the road, think about, do you have the ability to take care of yourself? Do you have cash in your pocket? And if you're home during these times, do you have water? Have you thought of things like the mask to filter out the smoke? Just other little things like that. And I'll be bringing up things like this in the future, but just to think about, do you have things that during these times, because you don't know if you're going to be stuck on the road, do you have the shoes to walk, to take care of yourself until you can get some help? Do you have a hat? Things like that. So that's just my tidbit for today.
Oh, thank you. Okay, be prepared.
Yes.
According to the season, it sounds like. Summer, smoke, and ice.
Yeah.
Right, very fine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. And finally, that's our board business. For under other business, I'm going to be out of the country for the last 2 weeks of April, but I'll be back in time for the elections meeting. And I'll figure out, or I already have figured out, how I will get the agendas posted in time and so on. So I'll still be with you, but just from another hemisphere. I'm going to go to Germany to see my daughter and my new grandson. And but I will be back for our elections. And then in April, we'll take up the discussion of how we declare our candidacies and notify the neighborhood and bring the neighborhood in. I feel like we need to embrace everybody and make them feel that we are their representatives, and that they can also supply other representatives. And let's get this, let's shake this thing up here. So we'll bring that up again in April. All right, so any final comments or board business from anybody here? Okay, well, thank you as always for hanging in all the way to a meeting that goes over time. I tried to not make it go over time, and then I had to cut Mo short. And but anyway, I appreciate all of you so much. Aiden
hung in there.
Yes, Aiden.
Good job, Aiden.
Yeah, okay, Aiden, you got the full force of one of our long meetings. And okay, everybody, good night, go and prosper, have a wonderful weekend, and thank you again. Again, I appreciate all of you so
Good
much.
night.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll talk to
Okay.
you next week about the movie.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We need to make an
We'll
appointment
get in touch
with
sometime next week.
with Kimberly. Okay, fine. Yeah, I'll reach out to you and we'll figure out a date. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, goodbye,
Great.
everybody. I'm going to stop
Thank you.
recording now. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.